Okay, today we are diving deep into a really important piece of legislation for Zimbabwe's digital age, the Cyber and Data Protection Act. We're also going to look at the brand new 2024 regulations that have just come into play, because they're changing the game for how your personal data gets handled.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get into why this law was even created. Then we'll meet the key players, the main characters in this whole story. After that, we'll focus on what really matters to you, your rights. Then we'll flip the script and look at the new rules for businesses. And finally, we'll cover what happens when things go wrong.
All right, let's start at the beginning. What's the big idea behind this whole act? Well, it all comes down to one thing: building a solid foundation of trust for our digital world.
And you don't even have to take my word for it. The law literally tells us its own mission statement. Right there in Section 2, it says the goal is to build confidence and trust. Think about it. So much of our lives happens online now. The whole point of this act is to make you feel safer and more secure when you're navigating that digital space.
Okay, so to really get how this all works, you need to know who's who. There are three main players on the field in this whole data protection game. Understanding what they each do is, well, it's essential to seeing the big picture.
The star of the show, without a doubt, is the data subject. And you know who that is? It's you. It's me. It's literally any person's data is being collected and used. This entire law is built from the ground up to protect your rights and your information.
Next up, we have the data controllers. These are the organizations, the companies, the public bodies that are actually collecting your data and deciding what to do with it. We're talking about your bank, your social media apps, your favorite shopping site, even government agencies. They're the ones holding the keys to your information.
And of course, every game needs a referee, right? To make sure everyone is playing fair, we have the Data Protection Authority. Their whole job is to be the impartial ref, blowing the whistle when rules are broken and making sure your rights are always protected.
So you might be asking, who exactly is this referee? Well, Section 5 of the Act makes it official. The role of the nation's Data Protection Authority has been given to POTRETS. That's the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for you and me. With all these players and rules in place, what new powers do you actually have over your own data? Let's get into what you can now demand.
Under Section 14 of the Act, you've been handed a whole new toolkit of rights. You now have the right to be told exactly how your data is being used. You have the right to see the information a company holds on you. And this is a big one. You have the right to object to them even using it. Plus, you can demand they fix anything that's wrong, or even delete misleading info altogether.
Now, the law makes another really important distinction. See, all your personal data is protected, yeah? But then there's a special category called sensitive data, and it gets an even higher level of protection. We're talking about stuff like your political views, your health records, your religious beliefs. For a data controller to touch this kind of info, Section 11 is crystal clear. They need to get your explicit, written consent first.
So, we've talked about your rights. Let's flip the coin. What about the companies and organizations handling all this information? What new obligations are they facing?
Well, the 2024 regulations brought in a huge change, a mandatory licensing system. Any data controller now has to be licensed by POTRETS, and the fees are tiered based on how many people's data they're handling. So the bigger your operation, the more you pay.
And that's not all. Another major new rule is that most organizations have to appoint a data protection officer, or DPO. You can think of this person as the company's internal watchdog. They're responsible for making sure the company is following the law, and they're the main point of contact for you and for the authorities. All right, so what happens when things go sideways? What are the real consequences if there's a data breach, or if a company just decides not to follow the rules?
As soon as a breach happens, a clock starts ticking, and it's a fast one. The law says a data controller has to tell the authority, that's POTRETS, about a security breach within just 24 hours of finding out about it. Not a week, not a few days, 24 hours.
And there's another deadline. If that breach could cause a high risk to you, to your rights and freedoms, they have to tell you, the data subject, directly. And they only have 72 hours to do it. That transparency is a massive part of this new system.
And let me tell you, this law has some serious teeth. We're not talking about a little slap on the wrist. For breaking the rules, like using data illegally or not keeping it secure, the penalties are steep. We're talking fines all the way up to level 11, or even up to 7 years in prison. That shows you just how seriously this is being taken.
But the Act does even more. It actually changes the criminal code to create a bunch of new cybercrime offenses.
So this goes beyond just data privacy. It's about making the entire online world safer by clearly outlawing things like cyberbullying, spreading harmful fake news, and sharing someone's private images without their permission.
So, this law really does signal a new era for data protection in Zimbabwe. It gives you, the individual, a powerful set of new rights, and it puts some very clear responsibilities on organizations. Which leads to one final question, and this one's for you. Now that you know what your rights are, what are you going to do to take control and protect your own digital identity?